How did Dreamforge begin?
You want to go?
Well, I mean, it's a funny story.
It is.
Me and Ashley connected, I guess, about a little bit over a year ago, and we just have been like floating in the same professional circles for a while, getting to know each other, talking about our families and our businesses and all that fun stuff. And then like we met up at a ribbon cutting about a month ago. Crazy sauce. So September of 2023 for later in life. And just like started joking about everything.
Yeah, we both own for-profit businesses, and my business is way too big for where we're at. And I was like, I really need a bigger space. And she said, yeah, I do too. And I was like, oh, we should just go in together, and then we can do this and we can do that, and we can make offices. And so just kind of a joke. Well, then I had texted my landlord, and I was like, hey, I need a space. I'm too big. Do you have any? And he's like, yeah, I do. I have this space. And I texted her and I was like, hey, there's this space. And we went and looked at it, and like within a week, we're like, well, let's do this. And so then
actually it wasn't even a week. So
it was
Thursday
like 2 days.
We talked about it. Friday we looked at the space. Sunday we decided, hey, do you want to go nonprofit? Decided the name and started designing logos. The next day we had emailed grant writers and a lot of our community. And by the end of that week, I think I was talking to all of
we were filing for licensing.
Everybody and filing everything. Yeah. And then the week after that, we were at a nonprofit fair, like announcing ourselves to our community, and it was scary and insane.
Yeah, it happened really quick, but I feel like it was just kind of God saying, that there's, and we realized in that process just how big the need is in our community for something like this. Mm-hmm. And then obviously my own experiences are a huge part of the encouragement behind it.
Mm-hmm. What is the mission and purpose for Dreamforge?
I guess I'll go first again. So the main slogan that we've kind of landed on is beyond survival to success. And that has a lot to do with Ashley's story and her past history. It also comes into play also with why I started my business and the need that was there for my family. Even though it's very different circumstances, it's still a story of resilience and picking it up, doing it scared, as I like to say a lot, and a story of faith, and just playing into how we can then serve our community through our experiences and coming together with other people who also have that. And do you want to expand a little bit more on the personal side of it?
Yes. Yeah, so October 8th was actually my 8-year anniversary that I had walked away from my previous marriage, and that marriage was a very controlling one. There was violence in it as well, and it was just a really hard and dark time, and I chose to walk away just because I couldn't do it anymore. It was the third time that I'd walked away, it wasn't the first time. And I was walking away with nothing. I was homeless with my 2 kids, then 5 and 3, in my car. I was just kind of picking up the pieces on my own, and had somebody been there with something like this that would have helped me rebuild, I would have rebuilt differently. I think I would have probably rebuilt faster. There were key organizations that we're actually hoping to partner with, and that helped my children and I, but those key organizations in that time in my life helped me. I'm where I'm at today because of that. It's crazy to think that just 8 years ago I was homeless. I didn't have a place, and look at me now. I've got a for-profit business, and it's in large part due to those nonprofit organizations that helped me rebuild and helped me see truth, not in just who I am, but then my faith was a huge part of it. There was a time where there was a key thing that had happened, and I didn't know what else to do, and I literally hit my knees and I just cried until I couldn't cry anymore. And all I said was, God help me, God help me. And in that moment, it was so dark and so hungry and so hard. But I knew that no matter what and no matter when, God was going to bring me through it. But not everybody has that part of their faith. Not everybody has faith. Not everybody has the tenacity or the willpower to get up and literally pick themselves up off the ground and move forward. And so with Dreamforge, we're hoping to say that you don't have to be alone. Kind of like Aaron and Hur holding up Moses' arms, saying, it's okay. Let's help you do this. Let's help you plan it. And you can't stand, that's okay. We're going to help you stand. It's okay to fall apart. Dreamforge is a place where they are to forge their dreams, but also to find healing. and find support, because that healing journey is very long. You know, I'm 8 years out, but I'm still healing. I'm still triggered at times, and I'm still learning to identify those triggers and process and work through those.
Right. And in an operational sense, we're hoping to offer affordable workspaces through offices, communal spaces, and a space that's by appointment only for those who are working in our space, so that they know that it's safe, that there's security measures in place, so that unless it's somebody who is supposed to be coming for an appointment and the person who they have the appointment with is there and can open the door for them, they're not going to just be able to walk in, which is something that both of our offices currently employ. My office is a man who just loves protection, and so he's very respectful, and him as well as my husband kind of helped instill those things as well into just my daily life, whereas it was something that I wasn't really taught when I was growing up. So we're excited to employ those into our mission and offer additional programs to our community as well, to even just help reduce the potential of trauma and abuse on women in their lives, or help bring them through it once they have, which, you know, comes from the whole Beyond Survival to Success. Full story.
You know, and that's our slogan, if you will, but it's not just the survival, and it's not just the rebuild that we're focused on. We're focused on that prevention. If someone had come alongside 15-year-old me and said, it's okay, you are loved, and you are loved not just by whoever was, you know, somebody who was safe telling me they loved me, but if someone had said Jesus loves you and this is who you are in him, I probably would not have fallen into that. And so that's where those classes come in, where we want to bring in and reach kids as young as 15, and not just help them put their identity in Christ, but equip them with skills and tools and knowledge. And whether they use that in their life, that's not the goal. The goal is to equip them with that so that they have confidence, so that they're less likely to be pursued and groomed by an abuser.
Why are you so passionate about helping women entrepreneurs, specifically trauma survivors?
Do you want me to go first, or you want me first?
I think you should go first in this one, because it is something that's very, very special to you, and then I'm happy to expand on it with my own personal experience, even though mine is so different from yours.
Right. So, you know, we've already kind of shared where the trauma part comes in. It's because of my own trauma experiences and having to rebuild my life from the ground up on my own. And I say on my own, but let's be real, God put people in my life at that season that helped me rebuild. So that's what that passion comes from, is we want Dreamforce to be what those people were for me in that time. But my passion comes from, I don't ever want anybody to go through or feel what I went through or felt. I don't want anybody to ever feel that small or that alone, because it is so hard. But then the other passionate part of it is those women entrepreneurs. It's not just trauma survivors. We're working to help prevent this trauma. You know, so if we can take these young women or adult women and give them a safe space to work out of, and then have a whole network of women entrepreneurs behind them, it helps instill that confidence to, again, help prevent them and become less likely victims of abuse of any kind, whether that's, you know, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, trauma, or emotional abuse, you know, any sort of major trauma. Just working with these women entrepreneurs and helping them build their dreams, and just coaching them too, you know, and that's where Sam's knowledge comes in, because you get somebody like me who has the trauma, and that story is a powerful motivator for me, but it also often inhibits me from thinking logically, because I work off passion. You know, my own for-profit business, Sweet Indulgence, most of my staff are trauma survivors. And that's because that's where my heart is. We work with trauma survivors, which is why we're not a storefront bakery, because I can't promise safety if I've got high foot traffic. And so we keep our doors locked. You're only there by appointment, and we're going off that same model for Dreamforge to continue that, because I want to continue working with my girls, and I adore my girls. They're phenomenal people. But, you know, not everybody has a significant trauma, and just because they don't have a significant trauma doesn't mean they don't need support, and it doesn't mean they don't need help. So we're not here to say, oh, you don't have trauma, go, bye. You know, it's not like that. It's let's help, let's come together, and let's rise up against our trouble and against our and against our traumas, whether it be big or small, because like you said earlier, we all have traumas.
Right.
And your trauma may not be my trauma.
Exactly.
It may not be as traumatic. I know people who have more trauma than I do, but the bottom line is that we all need help putting it back together.
Right. We're not beings who were created to be alone.
Right.
We were created to be a village, and a lot of our community, that sense of village, that sense of cooperation and collaboration, that resilience together has really been lost. And I know that's something that's always been put in my heart, is I want to offer women, for me, mothers are a very big part of mine, because my story of starting my business comes out of my husband getting very, very ill and me being the only one left, saying I have to pick up every other piece. And it's very isolating, and it's very easy to feel alone and to feel like, oh my gosh, it's all gonna implode, what am I gonna do? Because if I can't wake up tomorrow on time, things don't happen.
Right.
And so that's why, like, a lot of my team are women and mothers who need flexibility in their life, but they need to make a good wage to be able to go out and do what they need to do. But they might not have like that accounting background or whatever, because that's what we do with S&S Services, is we bring in team members. And thankfully, a lot of them I actually know, or they come from personal references, and they're people that were able to come into an office and work together, and we treat each other like family. We get frustrated with each other. We love each other. We cry at each other like we were. And something that I really hope that we're able to implement in Dreamforge is, once a week, my team, we try to get as many of us together as we can, and that day might look like getting all those questions answered that they had for me as the head honcho, whatever, as the boss. And, or it might just be like, hey, I had a really rough night, my kid's not sleeping, me and my husband had a fight, or this is happening, that's happening. And it might just look like, hey, well, let's take a day, let's pray, let's talk, let's cry, let's order DoorDash, and just be.
Let's just exist, and because not being a women entrepreneur doesn't mean that you have to work 100% of the time, despite what society tells
Exactly.
you.
Oh, yes.
That work's never going to go away.
I am not
it will
hustle
always
culture.
Be there. Exactly. I know as entrepreneurs, our work never ends.
Right.
There is always
just
an
looks
email,
different.
always an invoice, always a client to answer, always a phone call to return. It never ends. But if I can, or if
balancing.
exactly,
Learning
if we
the
can come
balance.
in and have days.
And that's part of Dreamforge.
How can men come alongside to support the mission for Dreamforge?
Well, that's a great question, and it is something that's very important, because while our mission is women-oriented, we also understand that men, as fathers, brothers, husbands, have a ginormous role in the lives, in the presence of the women who walk through our doors in the future. And so we want to really make sure that we want to have men who serve on our board who come at it from a respectful position of how can I support the women around me and the women in my community, and we want to help teach women the different ways of what a man should be and how they should be treated. And I know Ashley will expand a little bit more on that, but I know especially with my husband, he was a great example of how to be respectful towards women on a day-to-day basis, how to treat, he's really good at treating our sons, how to treat me, which then will lead into how to treat their mother, how to treat their wives once they're older, and just make sure that they are an integral part to, yes, come alongside and walk with and be a helper, an aid of our mission, while also understanding the empowerment that we're giving women too.
It's funny to think that, we talk about this women empowerment. It's funny to think that men can be part of that empowerment, but they can, and it's so crucial and it's so important, especially for women who have traumatic experiences with men. It's growing up, and even in today's society as an adult, we're always told, don't marry anybody, don't be with anybody who doesn't respect you. Well, what does respect look like? Mm-hmm. What if my view of respect is skewed because of my childhood experiences? Or, some people don't always have a great view of respect. or they don't have a prominent good view, right? Because my grandfather was one of the most respectful respectful men to my grandma. But it wasn't, as a kid, I didn't pay attention to that, and it wasn't, he wasn't the one that was in my childhood home, and it wasn't how I raised. And I grew up in a broken home, so I didn't see that day-to-day marital interaction and how those problems were solved and worked and done in a respectful manner. So we're inviting these men to come in, and it's part of the classes we want to offer too, is just to teach these women, this is what respect looks like, but not just through a class. It can be men volunteering to come help these women stuff envelopes and, those day-to-day things, just to watch them interact with us and see what respectful boundaries look like, both physical and emotional, how they speak to us, especially when they disagree, and just watching. And these women will be exposed to our own husbands being in there, because our husbands are a big part of our businesses. And watching my husband come in and support me with my business, and watching him come in and speak to me when we're trying to problem solve, and how he speaks to me, and the words that he uses, and his tone, and the level of his voice, all of that, all of those things. It took me a long time to learn what respect looked like, and I figured it out through my faith and through my healing with counseling. But again, not everybody has the access to that. So.
Right, which is something that we hope to create through panels and availability to discounted counselors and things in the area. That is some of the relationships that we're already forging to ensure that as soon as our doors are open,
we've got these resources available.
We're able to point you in a direction to make sure that even if we can't do it right there in our office, we've got your back covered, and somebody who's maybe right next door.
Right, and not we understand, especially somebody who's come out of this stuff. Coming out of that, you don't always have money to rent an office, but that doesn't mean we still can't help them. We're working to partner and looking to partner with other nonprofits who can connect them. The YWCA, Bikers Against Child Abuse, Freedom 424, other nonprofits who have the resources and who are equipped to help us take these people who come to us and say, okay, we can't help you, but we know who can, and let's get you connected with them. And so it's not just there to service the people who are our renters, our leasees. We're there to service our community.
And even within our rental spaces, we are hoping to ultimately create subsidy programs through our partnerships with other local businesses to the area, which we're still establishing those relationships and creating those sponsorships, so that, a woman can come in and say, I want to start this thing, or I have this thing and it's baby and I can't afford the full amount of rent. We can go through an application process and potentially approve them to have some of that subsidized through those programs. And those are things that we are in the works of developing and funding. And so we're hopeful that the men and the women in our community can come alongside us and support, whether it looks like prayer, funding, volunteering, whatever.
You mentioned Dreamforge works to both help prevent and rebuild. How are you planning on working towards the preventative part of your mission?
So some of that we've kind of touched on throughout, all of these other questions, but a lot of it is partnering with these other organizations, the YWCA, BACA, and hopefully partnering with high schools and offering these classes. And sometimes it's cake decorating classes, accounting classes, marketing classes, and giving them those ability. And then of course it's a nonprofit, right? So we're going to have volunteer options. So, and inviting these students to come in and just giving them those tools and that confidence.
It's going to be community outreach. It's not necessarily going to be come to this class and learn how you are inherently made by God in this awesome thing. It's more of it is well, yes, that's a part of it, but it's also more of a soft spoken, which I think really plays into femininity of come and be with our community, learn through example, learn through hearing from these women who have been there and maybe want to protect you, and that could look like a class. It could look like volunteering or mentorship.
I was just going to say, it could look like a mentorship. Coming in and having lunch, or just hanging out with my staff and I and seeing what we're about, or hanging out with your staff or someone else's
which we
staff.
both kind of open our offices up for that. We're like, hey, we're going to be in the office this day. Come hang out. Like we like that. And, as long as we know you're coming, that's the main thing, because both of us are like that. We're like, we just need to know you're coming. And I
need to mentally prepare for extra people.
I need to, yeah.
My introverted brain doesn't do surprises.
I have to make sure we have nothing of private information on the
Yeah.
schedule, just due to I deal with people's finances and personal information. But
And I
yeah,
need to make sure my staff knows because, again, trauma survivors, while we're on that process of healing, we're still very much, we like to know what's happening. We like to know what's coming
and
when
I guess
we
I'm just a planner that way.
can.
And so, as someone that was interested in renting an office or cubicle space, or wanting to donate resources and their time, how could they reach out to you?
Sure. So they can they can check out our website at forgingdreams.org. They can shoot an email over to info@forgingdreams.org. If you do happen to go to our website, you can see our current active capital campaign. We'll try to keep that updated as we go with whatever the next project is. We also have a form where you can apply to be one of our renters. We also have a getting involved form where you can tell us a little bit about what you want to do and how you want to get involved. And there's even a donate button to make it really easy right there for you if financial resources are what you're able to give. And we're thankful for any and all of the above.
Yeah, and it's not limited to just a financial resource either, because we will need, like I said, we'll need those volunteers to come help with the physical things too. So if you're somebody that says, I want to be a part of this, but I may not have the money to give, that's okay. Tithe your time.
Yep.
Time is huge, and it's just as valuable as $1.
And coming from an accounting perspective, it's just as valuable for the write-off.
That too.
Thank you for sharing your time with us.
We hope you can come alongside us and help women
Forge their dreams beyond survival to success.